So these right here are your standard 9 Gambits. We've got the Unlikely Alliance, draw 2 cards, Energy Shield, reduce 1 damage every time you're attacked, Rise to Power, draw a card, 8 heal, Political Maneuver, 2 trade, 8 attack for Surprise Assault, Salvage Operation, discard card goes to the top of the deck, Smuggling Run, basically it's a customs frigate, but you can do it with bases. So you can top deck a card. Frontier Fleet, gain an extra damage each turn. And Bold Raid, destroy target base, draw a card. So basically I'm going to rank them in the order of what I feel is importance to you. Number 1, Unlikely Alliance. Why is it the best? You get to draw 2 cards whenever you want. This gives you a lot of options, especially in the digital app where you can see what cards you're about to draw. You get 5 trade, you see an arc out there, you see a mothership out there, bam, draw 2 cards, it moves you ahead. This is the most flexibility of any of the cards. Next, Salvage Operation. Now, this is a little controversial that I'm putting it this high, but here's why I'll say this. Is because this is the best card to combo with other cards. You draw 2 cards, you pick up that mothership, and then you can immediately top deck it. But it's better than that. Being able to get a cutter, being able to get a survey ship, being able to get even something like as easy as a trade bot, and being able to put that on top of your deck gives you a huge advantage. Being able to scrap on turn 3, being able to heal or buy on turn 2 or turn 3 is enormous, and it sets you at a huge advantage. For those of you that have played the campaign modes, you realize that some of the early campaign modes, the only difference between your deck and their deck was 1 solitary card, a ram, a trade bot, a brain world. And yet they were still incredibly hard to beat for that very reason, because they set you at such an advantage. The Gambits allow you to have those advantages in every game. Third, Smuggling Run. It allows you to buy a card of 4 cost or less without paying its cost. So it's not as good as a customs frigate because it doesn't let you top deck it, but it's a very, very good card in a sense that it allows you to buy a somewhat cheap card additionally for free. So whereas these cards give you the advantage of drawing cards and you playing cards right away, this gives you an advantage of just getting more cards, getting more trade, acquiring more trade before your opponent is able to do it. So a lot of times what will happen is you can combine these 2 together, use your normal trade to buy a couple of trade accelerators, and then a 3rd trade accelerator here, then use the Gambit to put the best one on top. Or then once this is put on top, you could theoretically use this to draw 2 cards. Same idea, same sort of combo. Next, Bold Raid and Rise to Power. I kind of lump these together because basically they're draw cards with an extra effect. I personally like the Rise to Power a little bit more, simply because I like healing and I feel like this gives me an extra round, whereas I may not have a base to destroy. And so a lot of times this just becomes draw 1 card, whereas this card will always give you its benefit. This one is definitely good if the person puts out a Brain World or a Star Fortress or something like that that you really need to destroy, but so often this card is giving me benefits all the time, whereas this card is not giving benefits all the time. But they're also quite good to combine with some of the other cards to top deck a card, draw a card, top deck a card, draw a card. So this is actually very good. These cards are good with other cards in play. And Political Maneuver and Surprise Assault, I kind of lump these 2 together as well. An extra 2 trade, an extra 8 damage. Nothing to snipe at, you know, you're not angry that you got them, but they are the weaker of the 2. An extra 2 trade is great, but in theory I could use Unlikely Alliance to draw 2 cards, and what if I drew a trade pod and a scout, which would give me 4 trade instead of 2. Things like that. Surprise Assault is good to sort of finish your opponent off or to knock out a base that's chilling there, but unlike the other cards where I want to sort of use them immediately, these 2 I actually end up saving a lot, simply because I kind of want to save this to get an 8-drop card when I normally wouldn't, and I often want to save this to kill a base that's annoying me or to make a finishing blow. So a lot of times these will end up being weighted on. And last but not least, my two least favorite ones, Frontier Fleet and Energy Shield. These are basically only good when they're combined with each other. If you get one of these and something else, it's really annoying. You basically are sitting there and just -1, +1, -1, +1. So over the course of a game, your opponent is probably only going to get somewhere between 8 and 15 turns. So while it'd be great, hey, look, I'm dealing 8 to 15 more damage, or I'm saving 8 to 15 damage, any one base or any one card that does 3 damage or more is going to do equivalent to these two cards. So really all you're actually getting is a really weak base or a really weak attack card. You know, it's like getting a Viper every time, and in this case, it's like having a 1 damage outpost every time. It's not enough to justify having them, and frankly, if you play with mulligans, which we often do when we're playing the live game, I tend to mulligan out when I get one of these. In the app, I believe Energy Shield and maybe Frontier Fleet will give you a draw card as well. So that actually makes them a little more usable, because then you could get rid of them to just draw a card. But then essentially they just become draw cards. And then why not get a Bold Raid, or why not get a Rise to Power? You know, I would much rather have Rise to Power than have one of these cards. You know, these cards can swing a game, whereas these cards, their effects go unnoticed, basically. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm showing a fairly typical trade row. Got some cheap cards, got some expensive cards, and I'm going to show you how having the Gambits is going to actually help.